Okay, Mr. Hiltner, I think we are good to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. Let's call this meeting to order. This special meeting of the Sterling High School Board of Education to order. Let's please rise for a moment of silence. And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Augustine, opening statement, please.
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been faxed and emailed by the Board Secretary on July 30th, 2020 to the Courier Post and posted on the school's bulletin board. Notice was also faxed and emailed to the Borough Clerks of Hynella, Laurel Springs, Magnolia, Summerdale, and Stratford.
Thank you. Roll call vote for attendance, please.
Mrs. Berkeley? Yeah, here. Mr. Clark?
Here.
Mrs. Miller? Here. Mr. Nicholas?
Here.
Mrs. Oaksenbrandt? Here. Mr. Radcliffe? Marking him absent. Mr. Sims?
Here. You can hear me.
Yes. Thank you. Ms. Stout? Here. Mr. Hiltner?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Before we go to visitors' comments, let's quickly inform the community, welcome to the community at this special meeting, and let them know that they can contact us with questions or concerns by dialing 856-882-1126, or if they prefer to email their comment, it would be publiccomments@sterling.k12.nj.us. They're at the top of the agenda there, if you can see them. Again, 856-882-1126, or publiccomments@sterling.k12.nj.us. Great. Let's open it up to visitors' comments only, agenda items only, I should say. 5 minute limit, please. Mr. Dean, you're on the watch there.
You got it. Okay, Mr. Hiltner, at this time, Mr. Kozaneski has indicated there are no phone calls or emails.
Thank you. Hearing none, I'm going to turn it over to either Mr. Sheehan or Mr. Claiborne, who will fill us in on this return to school plan.
All right, Mr. Claiborne, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you need me to do anything with the control of the screen, or do you have it?
No, I need you to stop presenting,
Okay,
and then I will present.
got it. Stop sharing. Okay.
I am on, folks. Sorry, for some reason it keeps telling me it wouldn't let me connect. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radcliffe.
We got you, Dan. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Sheehan, I'm showing the website. Can you see me?
Yes.
All right, very good. So we're going to start right from the website. I'm going to navigate to our road back banner, which you can click right on here for the road back 2020 fall return to school plans. From here you can see all of the updated information where we have the full return to school plan. We have the summary of the remote schedule, hybrid schedule, a very nice side-by-side guide, an orientation schedule. We did a frequently asked questions page and showed some examples of the PPE purchases that were made through the CARES grant. Some of the videos will be posted here as it relates to our return throughout the rest of the summer. I want to give a thanks to our administrative team and our committees who've done a fantastic job collaborating to prepare these plans and reflect with the administration on them.
Mr. Claiborne, your screen is frozen, so it's right on the front page. It's not going into the inside pages.
All right, you're not seeing any of the pages? You're still on the front page?
We're still on the front page, yes.
All right, why don't we switch and let you go there. Can you navigate to the website for me?
Let me see.
And I'm going to stop sharing.
I don't have the website up. Give me 1 minute. All right, let me go to share here 1 second. Okay, let me see if everybody is seeing.
You can see that, yes.
Okay, so we have the road back.
So if you'll, yeah, and you can see some of the different hyperlinks we've made for all the different scenarios. But if you'll click on the fall return to school plan, July 31st, please.
Okay.
Good. From here, we've identified some of the guidance that we must meet, along with some of the requirements, which I'll highlight. That safety of our staff and students is most important. We've created 3 committees to go along with the restart, which is our restart committee dealing with instructional, pandemic response team that has to deal with safety, and our CARES grant committee, which is facilities and aligning the purchases to the safety needs of the school. And again, we access this by clicking on the road back banner on the website. So let's scroll down a little bit. Here we've added some key points of interest to help answer some of the questions that come up. The first thing to point out is if you are a parent or guardian that are choosing to go fully remote as a student, you're not ready to come back to school, you may select that. That process is going to be done in your on-course registration. All students and families are going to get updated on-course registration IDs mailed to them in their summer mailing, which are going to be mailed out the end of this week and should be at your home by Monday the 17th. That will give you your on-course ID and the process for the new 2020 on-course online registration. All parents and guardians of all students, regardless of age or grade, will have to complete the registration. When you complete the registration, there will be an option that you can pick for fully remote participation for the fall 2020. So a big question that goes along with that, which we did answer in our frequently asked questions, is can I start on fully remote and then decide, okay, looks like Sterling's doing a good job, things are easing up and I want to come back? You do have that option per the governor again. And for us, the process is going to be to submit that to your guidance counselor in writing 10 days in advance, and you certainly can come right back into the programming. So we talk about masks, how masks are going to be required, social distancing, screening. We talk a little bit about our disinfecting, ventilation of the classrooms, sports and extracurricular activities, the current plans and models shared by the NJSIAA, and then our plan for the school calendar. So you're approving, pending board approval, an updated version of the school calendar, which will show teacher-only days the first week, September 1st through 4th, where students will begin their remote instruction on the September 3rd, and then we're going to move into an orientation. This orientation is for 2 major reasons. Number 1, safety considerations, and number 2, training. So it provides an opportunity for us to safely bring students in, train them on the new processes, as well as train our teachers on hybrid or remote learning models, as well as our students on what to expect for the fall 2020. So that's the adjustment to the calendar. We're really excited about the orientation, which is being designed by the Restart Committee. Mr. Chune, if you'll scroll down to that, you can stay on that page.
Okay.
And you're going to scroll down to the remote plan. So we'll start off if the governor, and again, it is not our decision, but if the governor, state and local, put us on fully remote, some of the things that might be different than what we experienced in the spring. So again, safety is our goal, well-being, and then synchronous or live aspects to courses every day. For our fully remote option, and this is only as the entire school is on fully remote, we would do 2 synchronous courses per day. We would follow a Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday schedule with just 2 blocks. And our goal as administration and collaboration with the Restart Committee is that we do not want to overburden family and balance of life that's happening both at home and with a remote learning environment. So we're reducing that demand to 2 courses per day. And then there are windows of time, which you are familiar with from the spring. The difference though, and we got this information based on surveys to both the staff and students' parents, is that we want to up the ante a little bit. There will be an attendance check during each block. There will be a synchronous aspect during each scheduled block. And the grading policy will be more stringent and communicated in advance on what the best policy would be for the remote. So again, this is the fully remote for the whole school. This does not apply if you were to select to be fully remote and the rest of us were in school. Scroll down for me, Mr. Sheehan. The hybrid schedule. So this would be our anticipated start for this fall. Unless there is a change, we're going to begin in the hybrid model. Again, safety, well-being is most important. The third concept is daily instruction, which will promote a further attainment of the curriculum. Students who are going to participate in each block at the specific scheduled time. We are doing an A-B schedule, which we're calling blue and silver. It is by alphabet, blue being last name A through L, silver M through Z, with Wednesday being a fully remote day for students. But on that day, they're going to continue to follow the same schedule below. So if you'll scroll down just a little more, Mr. Sheehan. Now our rationale in this model is that there is daily live instruction for all students. And students in school or at home will log in at the designated time. So we're going to fit the schedule within the normal scheduled school day, which meets the requirements of the contract and the normal bell, 7:22 first entry, and then being done by 2:29. But you'll see that it is a half-day schedule where block 1 classes start at 8:00 a.m. and then they finish block 5 at 11:57, where we have our first dismissal. So going back to the first entries, the first student entry is going to be the 3A, 3B classes. Only students in enrolled classes will come at that time. We will not conduct the normal study hall that would be done during the middle of the day. This is only going to be for classes like your ROTC, your chorus class may come during this time, the first wave of students. After that, we will continue with 5 designated student entry times, and that's why we've implemented a homeroom, which will be the same as your block 1 class. That's going to allow the staggered start of students coming in, which is going to provide time for the self-assessment surveys to be completed by the student, as well as the temperature checks at the doors. And then, so again, whether you're at home or in the classroom, you're going to log in and you're going to be ready to go at 8, 9, 10, or 11 for your 4 main blocks, and that's all 5 days of the week. Then we're going to have a staggered dismissal. Again, it's a half day. Everyone's home. Staff have lunch. The lunch plan is going to be that students that desire to have lunch and want to purchase from the school will have that opportunity, and that will occur on Wednesday afternoons, and we will follow up with more information on that process. Wednesday afternoons, students desiring to obtain lunch from the school will have the opportunity to pick that up on Wednesday afternoons, but there's no lunch served during the day during our hybrid model. Then in the afternoons, you see each block has a remote session, which are kind of small. The main goal, number 1 here, is for teachers to be able to follow up with those students that were at home participating in the AM session. Maybe they missed something, maybe they didn't, they had a technical difficulty, the teacher can follow up. Or if we really get advanced as this goes on. Perhaps the teacher does a small group in the AM with in-person class. The PM, maybe they do a small group with the people that are home. The teachers are working together in collaboration in that restart committee to best decide how to use that time. But the key is that there are logging in at home during this block. There's synchronous requirement to the lesson by the teachers, and again, this grading policy is going to be communicated in advance. So additionally, if you are a person or a family that decided that you're not comfortable sending your student to school yet, you're going to select fully remote. So just to reiterate, they are still going to participate in this hybrid schedule. They're just going to do it from home. Blocks 1, 2, 4, and 5, you can be sure your student's logging in at 8 a.m. And then if they miss something, or if there's a hiccup, or maybe the teacher is going to use the time in the afternoon to further connect with your student at home, that's what the PM remote times are for. That is the hybrid model. Those are the two main. Of course, the traditional model is the third model that the district is required to have, which we already do, and that would be following the traditional schedule. And if Mr. Sheehan, if you go back to that page, correct, and then hit that side-by-side comparing the three models.
Where's that at?
Right in the middle.
Got it?
Yep. It's just a nice little graphic that shows you the difference between the remote, the hybrid, and traditional, and the schedules therein. Mr. Sheehan, if you go back and to that frequently asked questions, there are many questions and we're happy to answer them. We tried to summarize some of the questions we received so far here. Our weekly video this week is going to be committed to this, trying to help answer some of the questions. But you're not limited to that. Please reach out to your guidance counselor or to an administrator for more questions. And then one more page, Mr. Sheehan, if you go back, would be to show them some of the purchases, because I know this is a concern too. What is it going to look like upon entry? And we will follow up with another video devoted to the entry process, the self-screening of the students. But the district, in collaboration with the CARES Grant Committee and the CARES Grant Act, we've purchased face masks, custom face masks for all students and staff. You can see the thermal scanners that are going to go into place, different directional signs. So the maintenance and the staff are very much ready to greet your students in a safe manner. That's it, Mr. Sheehan.
Okay. We can get back to... Okay, thank you, Mr. Claiborne. And again, I'd like to thank the administrative team, the committees, for all of their hard work in preparing for 3 plans for return to school. And again, do it in a safe, effective way is something that we are going to put a lot of pride in, and we'll have our orientation to kind of reteach students and staff alike on the comings and goings of safely returning to school.
Mr. Sheehan, before we proceed, Mrs. Danila, can you clarify, is this an action item? Are we going to vote on this?
It is an action item.
Yep, sorry, I apologize for that, I was mute. Yes, it is an action item. I can share with the board that as of right now, there's no legal requirement for the board to approve the plan. However, as we saw with the reopening plan back in the spring, that was initially the case with the department, and then eventually there was a requirement for board approval. It does have to be submitted to the executive county superintendent, and just as a practical matter, given all of the work and the operational concerns that have gone into it, there are boards who are taking action on it to demonstrate that support for the administration and all the work that's gone into this.
Thank you. That being the case, I guess I should open it up to the board members. Does anyone have any questions or concerns for Mr. Sheehan or Mr. Claiborne regarding this plan before we actually vote on it?
Hey, Bill, I do have a question. Paul Sims, if you can hear me this time?
We can hear you, Paul.
Okay, Matt, so maybe more toward Matt or Jared, how does it work with sports? Kids elect to do total online, and then they show up for sports at 3 o'clock. How does that work?
Okay, so part of the governor's return to school accounts for students who opt for remote instruction are still entitled to all the services and practices that may exist for students that are here in person. Hopefully, like you said, they're going to be going through instruction. They're going to have to get themselves here to participate. Hopefully, they're making a good decision for themselves, both academically and activity-wise. But the governor has put something in place where they can participate in sports and activities while on remote instruction.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how you're too afraid to go to school, but you'll go and play football, or you'll go play soccer. I just don't understand that, but
Right.
I guess that's the governor's. I guess he has a kid in high school or something. I guess I don't know. So, all right, that's all. Great job getting the plans together, though. And putting them on the website. That's good stuff. So thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Kelly Stout. I have a couple questions. My first question is the mask required for the one that the school is providing, or can they wear their own mask to school?
Okay, so as you know, the governor on August 3rd mandated that students must wear a mask in school unless there's a medical reason or there's an activity that doesn't support it. They do not have to wear the Sterling High School mask. We're to provide them with one, but they are certainly welcome to wear their own mask as long as they are effective and that they are, clean. We want to make sure that they're in good working order.
All right, my concern for that is, I work for Cooper Hospital, so one of the things that we can't wear at the hospital is ones with vents on it, because that actually only protects you and not those around you. So they have to wear a cloth mask on top of that as patients come in. So I would suggest we look into that.
Okay.
My second question is they're only coming in the one door by the cafeteria. Is there going to be multiple entrance points?
Mr. Claiborne, do you want to touch on that?
Yes, I'll be happy to. So we have 4 main entrance points on the school, and again, we will communicate this to all stakeholders as we get closer. 100 wing, 300 wing, we're going to use the rear entrance by the new gym and then the cafeteria, and then again with about half the students in the building, which will be about 400 or 425 students, over 5 different entry time slots in 4 locations. We're looking about 20 students at a entry point every 5 minutes approximately.
Okay, that's awesome.
I actually have an add-on question, Ed. I'm sorry. This is Sean Nicholas. In regards to student lateness, let's say they missed their designated allotment of time. Are they allowed to come in another section, or do they have to go maybe just remote for that day?
Mr. Claiborne, I'll allow you to answer that one.
Yeah, so if you're late to class, we want you to get here as normal as soon as you can. Late students will come in at the main office where we do have a checkpoint there, and we can do full scanning at that point as well, and they can make it to their class. So that way they get there in person just as soon as they get here. If, to your point though, they absolutely could, let's just say they were sick for a legitimate reason, they could be home and log in at their scheduled time, 8 a.m., and participate, and we do have an attendance code set up for that.
Thank you. That was actually a follow-up I was going to ask them. Thanks.
Any further questions? Matt, is this listed under your action items in 7B, or are we going to make a motion to approve this now?
It's under my action items.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to 7 then, Matt.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Hiltner. We have the board highlights from July 22nd. We have a thank you note from Alexis Lambertino. Alexis was a choice school student from Hamilton who had a great high school career, both academically and athletically. She received one of our scholarships and just put a note of thanks in there. We wish her nothing but the best of luck at Felician University, where she'll continue her studies and her career as a soccer player. Just want to add a few other things. We had a successful tech upgrade on Friday, and we also did some lead testing, both indoors and out. We'll get the results of those back. As Mr. Claiborne had mentioned, there'll be a summer mailing, which should be in your hands on August 17th, which is Monday. It's very important that you read that, follow up with that, especially on the on-course, and when it comes time to register and select for your option if you want to go remote learning. And just a little class of 2020 update. The senior trip refund, we have received it from World Class Travels. Our business office is in the process of writing out checks. They should be coming out later this week, early next week. And yearbooks, they are en route. We just don't have a delivery date. Once we get a delivery date, we will announce a distribution and social activity here to pick up and sign yearbooks for the class of 2020.
Awesome. Great.
Okay, that's it.
Is that it, Matt?
That is it.
Okay, let's move to Human Resources. Mrs. Miller.
I'd like to move item 1A, please.
Second, Oaks and Grant. Thank you.
Questions on item 1A? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Berkeley?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mrs. Oaksenbrandt?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Mr. Hillner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Mrs. Oakes-Brand, Education.
Thank you. I'd like to move item.
What's happening, the hot stuff?
We're sending you back to the future.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
You see, we're on a mission from God.
Cinderella story, out of nowhere. A former greenskeeper now about to become the Masters champion.
You have chosen life.
Why did you kiss my ear?
Why are you holding my hand?
Where's your other hand?
Between two pillows.
Those aren't pillows.
Once again, I'm on. I'm France, and we just want to bomb you up. All right.
Oh, gnarly! There's no action items for operations, is that correct?
So committee reports is,
Mr. Sims.
I just want to make sure there's no action items for operations. I don't see any, no.
Mr. Sims has a report to comment on.
Mr. Sims, it's your floor.
Thank you, Mr. Hiltner. We had a operations meeting on August 6th via Skype. Again, talking about solar. Again, talking about the roadway leading to the back. Seems like everything is going to be handled properly, hopefully, and we'll get that project wrapped up. And that was it.
Thank you. That leads us to the resolution involving the change in our budget somewhat. Mrs. Augustine, would you like to bring us up to speed on that one?
Sure. Okay, so near the end of May, the governor had proposed, due to the pandemic, cuts because the state was going to be experiencing large reductions in revenue. So he was actually going to cut about $355 million out of school budgets. And unfortunately, we are one of them. And when we got the news at the end of May of the proposed changes, our cut was going to be $345,905 from the original budget that had been approved and certified for taxes back at the, actually at our May meeting when we did the beginning of May when we did our budget plan and presented that to the public. So with the ongoing pandemic and our economic crisis, it's kind of difficult to try to focus on which cost we can actually reduce in our appropriations to absorb that almost $346,000 in cut in our state aid amounts. So we took a look at some of the our cost. Obviously, our salaries and benefits are pretty much fixed, so there was no room really to make any cuts in those appropriations. But we looked at our supplies and equipments and also a little bit in our transportation cost. And there's 3 line items that we came up with to reduce. And near the end of, between the beginning of June and the end of June, a couple of the board agenda items were actually to make some of these purchases to relieve our 2021 budget of those costs. And a majority of that was in the laptop cost. Also, we took a look at the spending that we were going to do to upgrade one of our computer labs to IMAX, and we reduced that, and we were going to change that to the following year. And another concern that we had for safety, a piece of equipment that had been in the 2021 budget had been moved to the 1920 budget as well. The remaining portion of the 346,000, basically 346,000 that we had to find a reduction in our appropriations, came from some transportation costs that had been budgeted for our special education students. Due to the fact that our extended school year was fully remote, we did not have the transportation costs that would have been associated with that. In addition to that, some of the normal transportation for some of the programs for that program also are not going to be taking place to that extent. So all three of those line items comes up to our $346,000 reduction that we had to find. So the Department of Education is requiring that we pass a resolution which adopts this plan to revise our appropriations in order to meet the cut in aid of $345,905. We have to send them our narrative on that, the three line items that will be affected from the original budget that had been certified for taxes, and also this resolution that you see there on that page.
This is Augustine. Do you think it'd be worth our while to take a look at that graphic that was sent out today that kind of laid it out in black and white?
That's an internal document, but I have, let's see, what did I have? The three line items are the general supplies, which encompasses the laptops, and that was $261,999 of the $345,905. The other line was an equipment line for the high school as well, and that was $62,000 reduction in that budget line, and that was the IMAX and the equipment for the Carl risers, which you had approved back in June. I think it was June, end of May or in June. And the last line was transportation costs, which was a reduction in that appropriation line of $21,906. So all three of those lines, and the difference, the reduction from the original certified budget and this revision, totals up to the $345,905 that our state aid is going to be cut.
Great, thank you, Joanne. Anybody have any questions or concerns about this item before we move further?
So the laptop cost, we impacted that in the previous year's budget, so we were able to use surplus from last year in order to take off this year?
The 1920?
Yes, the 1920, yes, okay.
Yes, and our audit has not even begun yet, and I can't even, I don't know what our bottom line number is, but we were able to make that without actually making too big of a transfer in order to have county approval for that. So we should still be fine.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions before we ask for a motion?
I have just a general question. I don't know if anyone here can answer it. But with this new protocol, for lack of a better term, where the reduction comes in due to the less revenue to the state, has this ever occurred in the past? And if so, has it been just a one-year thing, or is this now going to be the new norm where we can expect to have less aid year after year now that they've done it once?
Well, I would certainly hope that this isn't going to be the norm, because a lot of time and effort is spent in trying to compile the budget, and that is our fiscal plan moving forward to meet the education of the students. And I would hope that this isn't going to be an ongoing thing. But unfortunately, with the ongoing pandemic and the unknowns, everything, and the word is everything is fluid. It changes from week to week. And, the state has already extended their fiscal year to the end of September. So honestly, we probably won't even know what the true effects to the state and their revenue is going to be until near the end of the calendar year, because once they close their books on September 30th, it's going to take them some time just to figure out where they are. So I hope that this isn't going to move forward, but you know, I can't answer that.
Jason, I could be wrong. Maybe one of the veteran members can comment, but I seem to recall this happening at least one other time. I don't know if it was a financial crisis or what it was, but I do remember we had to go. I vaguely remember this happening once before. Anybody else?
I can actually speak to that, Mr. Hiltner. This is Alicia. So back in, I want to say 2010 or 2011, during the last significant recession, in addition to steep cuts in state aid that the districts were receiving, the department actually also came in and sort of invaded districts that had a significant amount of surplus in their budgets as a way to kind of redistribute and I guess lessen the impact of some of the state aid cuts. So that's something that everyone's been concerned about this time around, is whether that, is a, we're at risk for that again. What I would say is that I agree with everything Joanne said. It's fluid and it's hard to know. However, I don't think that you should expect to see that $345,000 back in your state aid next year. I don't think that's likely, given the reduction in revenue statewide. What I think will not happen next year is, so you're adopting this resolution now because they gave you your preliminary state aid numbers and then they pulled back on that after the pandemic hit. Hopefully, the state aid numbers that you get in February or March or whenever it's going to be this year are going to be one and done. There aren't going to be post-budget approval adjustments to it, so hopefully you won't have to do this again. But I would share Joanne's skepticism that you'll see this money restored to your budget.
Thank you. Does that answer the question, Jason?
It does. Thank you for the information.
Anything else before we make a motion here? All right, someone want to make a motion to vote on this revised budget?
I move we pass the resolution reducing appropriations for the 2021 budget due to revised state aid reduction in the amount of $345,905. Folks who ran.
Second part.
Okay.
Hey, can we all there's so much background noise. Can we all just mute unless we're talking? Because I can barely hear everyone. There's so much background noise.
You put the vote first.
Okay, I had a first by Mrs. Oxenbrandt and a second by Mr. Clark. I'm going to take a roll call.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Berkeley?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholas?
Yes.
Mrs. Oxenbrandt?
Yes.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Yes.
And Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Mr. Hiltner?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, one last chance for visitors' comments. I'll repeat the phone number. If you would like to call in for any questions or comments, it's 856-882-1126, or if email is your preference, that would be public comments, one word, at sterling.k12.nj.us. They're both at the top of the agenda. You can see them right on your screen there. So we'll give them 1 minute, Mr. Shan.
You got it. The clock has started. All right, Mr. K is asking us to hold on. He may be getting a phone call. We have a call, so he's going to pipe them through.
All right, you're connected.
Okay. Hi, my name is Kathy D'Amico. I'm at 317 Jefferson Avenue in Magnolia, and I just had a quick question, and I apologize if this was already addressed. I came in a little late. First, I wanted to thank everybody for all their hard work with the reopening plan. But my question is, my daughter is going into her freshman year. Will you be having a orientation on YouTube for the freshman parents just to understand everything?
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your question. I'll let Mr. Claiborne answer that.
This is Mr. Claiborne. Thank you for your question. So your question is for, as I heard it, a orientation for parents via YouTube or such. And yes, we will have a video that will highlight the processes of the orientation that will be very helpful for the freshman parents.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
You're quite welcome. Is that our only call there, Mr. Kay?
Let me see, he's getting back to me here. That was the only call.
Okay, so we can move off of visitors' questions then. Can you scroll down on the agenda there, Mr.
Sure.
For one? I think we're up to open-ended here, right? Or old business, new business, my bad. Old business, new business. We'll do this alphabetically again, Mrs. Berkeley.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I just want to say thank you to the administration and the committees for getting us back to school this year. Let's hope it's a good start and good luck. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Clark.
I'll just reiterate what Mrs. Berkeley said as it relates to the time and effort that must have taken to put together everything that the staff has done thus far, and look forward to a good and healthy school year. Nothing further.
Thank you. Mrs. Miller.
Just want to thank Mr. Sheehan and all the administrative team for all their hard work on this road back to school. It's not easy, and it's a uncharted territory for everybody. We just know it's very much appreciated.
Okay, Mr. Nicholas.
Yes, I too want to thank everyone involved with putting together this back to school plan. And I know the amount of effort it took from all parties, so it's much appreciated. I actually have one last general question, Matt. Has the county superintendent board or the governor given any updates on what they will do for the school year? Have they set themselves any type of deadlines in the month of August?
The county superintendent, we meet weekly, and there is no timetable. There's no predicting where it'll go. Right now, we've just been told to have a plan ready to safely return, which would be our hybrid plan, but it could change in a moment's notice. And that's really the difficult thing when you put this work in, whether you should direct your attention towards a hybrid or a remote. So we really have to be ready for whatever may occur, in the state. So the county's in the same position we're in. They seem not to have much more information than we have, and if they do, it's only at a moment's notice that they'll share it with us.
No, I appreciate it. 'Cause I know neighboring states have already made some commitments that they will or they will not, so I didn't know if there was any deadlines at the state or the county. Thanks again, and I think the efforts we put prepared, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Okeson-Brand.
I spent most of my career in education, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of this staff, the administrative staff, the teaching staff, everyone who went and worked so hard to make this program so viable and caring towards our students. I am so proud to say that I'm on the Board of Education for Sterling High School, so kudos to everyone who is involved. And one question, the September 3rd board meeting location, you'll get back to us on that?
Yes, I'm going to work with Alicia, and we'll see what method we're going to hold that meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to Mr. Sims. No, Mr. Radcliffe. Excuse me, Mr. Radcliffe.
I thought you were skipping me there. Just echoing everyone's comments. The staff did just an awesome job. So good work by all, and look forward to having school back in some fashion.
Thank you. I just called Mr. Sims in advance to get him ready. Now, Mr. Sims, are you ready?
I'm prepared, Mr. Goldberg. again, thanks to the administration. I know everybody said it. It's been a long summer for you guys. Probably a long 6 months since it started. Looks like a great opening plan. Hopefully everything goes well. And unfortunately, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Thank you, Mrs. Stout.
I am in the same. Thank you all so much for all that you've done to make it a safe environment and a educationally sound environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that no curveballs are thrown to us between now and September, and we can implement the hybrid plan as we hope. I do have one last piece of unfinished business. Mrs. Augustine, feel free to jump in. At the end of every year, we're required to do an evaluation on our superintendent. This got waylaid for a couple of reasons. First of all, we had two superintendents. We had Mr. Napoleon for 8 months, I guess it was, and then an interim superintendent with Mr. Sheehan for 4 months. We were trying to get answers from county, from state, from our school board's reps. It took us a while to find out that it's Mr. Napoleon who we're going to do the annual evaluation on. I spoke to Mark. He's working on it. He has not returned it to me as of yet. Have you seen anything, Mrs. Augustine?
No. No, I thought he was going to give you an update because normally that process is, I'm removed from that process. So I believe he was going to give you an update.
He was, and he did apologize the other day by text. He said he was going to give me a call, and I guess he had some questions. I have not heard from him. But the long story short, we're required to do it. We have begun the process. The next step after Mark self-evaluates is to get the board members to contribute. Now, Mrs. Augustine and I discussed this the other day. I know she's not directly involved, but we did have several new board members who were not sworn in until January. Am I correct?
Yes.
And we felt that it would be not inappropriate, but very difficult. It would be hard for them to say much about Mr. Napoleon in the space of 2 months. So what we'll probably do is just get those people who were with Mark for at least from September of 19 through the time he retired to contribute their thoughts as well. And then we put it all together into a package. It goes back to the county or the state or whomever, and that wraps up. But it's a requirement that we have, that we're accountable to complete. So you might be getting something from me or Joanne, one of us, that asks you to comment on Mark's service for these last 8 months from September through February. I don't want to see you get caught off guard and not know what the heck we're talking about. Anybody have any questions on that?
I would just jump in, Mr. Heltner, that the information that the board members will receive to complete that will come from New Jersey School Boards Association. Right. So just to be on the lookout for that. I know that we've had difficulty in past years in board members receiving the links. You know, there's a link, there's a password. It's not the easiest process of logging on, but once you're on, I think it's pretty straightforward after that. So I would just encourage everyone to keep an eye on it. And if you have any trouble with accessing it, to call school boards directly, because Joanne does not have access to that.
Okay, that answers that question then. So we'll be working on it. It's something we have to do, and we'll get it done, and that'll be the end of that. That's all I have. Do we have need for executive session?
Not that I'm aware.
Mr. Sheehan?
No, no, sir.
Okay, so I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
My motion.
Second, Berkeley.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Hearing none. Meeting adjourned, and have a great finish to your summer, gang.
Thank you.